Hello, welcome to another edition of Prove All Things. I want to thank everybody who's joined us today, whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or X. I was going to say Twitter, but on X, or if you're watching on the CGI Digital Network app, whether that's on your phone, tablet, or on Roku or Apple TV, we thank you for joining us live. And to all those who are watching or listening to this recorded, we thank you for joining as well. I'm joined with co-host Mike James. How you doing, Mike?
Hey, Jeff, doing well. Good to see you again today, and looking forward to being in Atlanta this weekend. I'll be speaking there at the church there in Atlanta, and I think we got a bunch of people coming in. Hopefully,
I, I I don't know if I don't know who's coming. I know we're inviting people to come. So
right.
we have it's our visitors day. So I guess we'll invite people to come out for visitors day. Hopefully there's a letter's been sent out and some emails are sent out to invite people to come to church to visit. We'll see what happens. You know, we've had over the past year we've been in this new location. We've gained about 2 new people, which is good, and I think that's, for Church of God, that's really good. Yeah, and as we continue to reach out to more in the community, we had a, picnic that we had over 100 people show up to last summer, and we'll plan on doing a picnic as well and other activities, to reach out to the community, reach out to friends and family, let them know about our church. So, appreciate Mike coming out. What's your presentation gonna be about, Mike?
Yeah, we're going to be talking about evil, pain, and suffering, and also we're going to look a little bit at training too, in relation to how God is making us aware of things through using evil, pain, and suffering, and I'm going to tie those two things together. So I'm going to try to do it in a unique way. We'll see how it goes, but
Okay, that sounds great.
looking
Would you be
forward to it.
available for questions afterward?
Yeah, for sure, for
Okay,
sure.
so we'll set up and we'll do a question and answer session after we'll have the main message, and then we'll have some finger foods, some snacks, and then afterwards we'll do some question and answers with Mike, which I think everybody would look forward to. So thank you for coming out, Mike. Hopefully we'll have some people show up to our visitors day. That's what the goal is.
Very good, very good. Looking forward to it.
All right, right now today we are joined uh, with Deanne and Dusty Howell. How are you doing?
Great. Good, good. Glad to
And
be here.
could you let everybody know where you're from and I guess your background with the Church of God?
We're in the middle of nowhere
Okay.
in Kansas, so in the eastern part of Kansas, in a little town called Emporia,
Hmm.
about an hour and a half from Kansas City, hour and a half from Wichita, an hour from Topeka. So our backgrounds, we met at Ambassador College in Big Sandy, Texas, and Dan's from Olympia, Washington. I'm from Wisconsin. So we met down in Texas, and we went 2 years down there and 2 years out in Los Angeles, Pasadena, California. Finished there, and we both did some projects while at Ambassador College. I got to go to Thailand and to Sri Lanka. Deanne got to go to
Jordan and Syria on an archaeological dig and working with a handicap school for the handicap in Jordan for a year.
So we kind of been in the church for many moons. We're in an independent Church of God, Kansas City, Church of God in Kansas City for the last decade or so, and that's been great. We're a little bit more about our background. We got graduate degrees at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. We went and taught in Beijing, China for a couple years before we came back, settled down, and had a little family. We got a girl and two boys that are out of the nest, so we're empty nesters, I guess, here in Kansas.
Yeah, and Dusty was a university professor for
22 years, and Deanne was an adjunct professor for 20 years. So at Emporia State University, which is the oldest state university in Kansas, a little bit older than KU, University of Kansas. So
All right. So you definitely have a really good educational background.
Yeah. It's in fact, we went into education. That was our we always had a passion for that. So I have
Hmm.
2 doctorates, ed psych and ed tech,
Hmm.
and Deanne has a master's in.
Curriculum instruction, science education.
So
So
yeah,
what did you guys teach at the collegiate level?
instructional design and technology. So people design cars
Hmm.
and houses. We design instruction. So we were teaching. Probably half of our students were K-12. The other half were corporate, military, hospitals, energy plants, you name it.
Hmm.
Because if you've got to teach a large number of people using technology, kind of like what you guys are doing right now, we've actually had
Hmm.
ministers come through our program to learn how to ramp up their ministry.
Hmm.
So that was our. We finished there, so to speak, because I've taught every grade K to 12 before jumping in to higher ed, and Deanne's taught a lot of grades. She focuses on middle school, and she likes that
Elementary.
spot, elementary and middle school.
Cool,
All right,
cool.
all right, yeah. So that kind of, I guess, maybe leads us into what you're going to discuss today. Something I find very exciting always when I hear about this. That I guess our viewers and people out there would probably find of interest or maybe of use.
Yeah, the Common Faith Academy is one of the things that we've been working passionately on for quite a while. Deanna and I have taught online classes for over 2 decades. So our department was one of the first 2 departments at our university to uh, work on online programs, develop an online master's program. So we had face to face and a master's program online. And so we got to do a lot of teaching
Yeah.
in that area, building lots of classes along the way.
And teaching classes on how to teach classes, online classes.
Yeah, if you bump into the dean of the Teachers College here, he retired years ago, but you bump into him, and if he sees me, even though I was a full professor for him for years, he will say, "Oh, Deanne, my teacher," because she's the one who taught him how to use the technology, like how to make PowerPoint come alive in a classroom, those kind of things. So,
Gotcha. For those who aren't familiar with the Common Faith Network, I know you guys are, creating courses through the Common Faith Academy, but let folks know, what is the Common Faith Network, and then how did the Common Faith Academy come from that?
Common Faith Network is a really neat organization that is kind of independent churches of God. They got together and they try to go across boundaries. When I'm asked about the corporate groups, there's very few of the corporate groups that seem to be able to do the dance with members that are all over the place. CGI does probably the best job that I've seen, and I'm always sharing that.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah, we're like a big independent church in a sense, because we are part of the Common Faith Faith Network. We do participate in a lot of Common Faith Network activities.
right. So Common Faith Network is just a number of groups. They've got kind of a main hub in Cincinnati. The Cincinnati Church of God might be one of their hubs, but
Hmm.
and they run camp outreach in the inner city of Indianapolis, and now they're moving that to Kansas City. They did that last summer. So working with the inner city kids, putting on vacation Bible schools. There's just a lot of different things. But the Common Faith Network has started working on Common Faith Academy to even get a lot of people that are dispersed around the country. So sometimes it's hard to get even to a church. You live quite a ways away in a remote area. Well, sometimes these online classes are the best. Now, interestingly, we mentioned Common Faith Academy. One of our best classes, Mike James. So he's going to Atlanta to talk about the pain and suffering, which is generally the top question people have about what's going on. Is God active now? Why so much pain and suffering? It's an amazing question. And Mike James has been teaching that. We're trying to twist his arm to get that all online, so it's not the face-to-face great class that he has. So, but that's one of those classes that we have in our wheel. Mike's class for Common Faith Academy.
And comparative religion too.
Right, right. I'm gonna teach comparative religion this spring sometime. I taught the evil, pain, and suffering last year. So, and I'm working on another one, but I got too many things going on right now. I haven't finished that one yet.
Yeah.
But let us know how has it been received within the church so far, the academy. How are you guys doing? How many courses are out there? How can people get involved?
Yeah. What, and also, what age range is this for? Is it for everyone? Or is it for just younger people? Who is this targeted at?
Probably middle school and up.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, elementary, you could go through it with upper elementary and a parent probably.
With some of the courses.
With some of the courses. Yeah, we've had definitely middle school students take the class. And we've gotten like 2 thumbs up from people that have gone through some of our classes, taken the classes. We just got a comment at Winter Family Weekend down in Florida. One guy came up and said, well, until you mentioned that in the announcements, I was oblivious to that. But that is the most incredible class that your website and your classes that I've seen on there. Wow, you got to push that out. So we do need to do a better job of pushing it out because people get pretty excited about the class, and especially if they take it in cohorts. Now, you can take them one at a time online by yourself, but if you get into a small cohort, do this kind of a Bible study together and use it as a Bible study. Wow, that is just powerful.
Yeah. I have a question from a viewer that might relate to this. It says, is there a tuition charged and are the classes accredited?
No tuition charge, completely free. And no, we're not accredited. We haven't played that card, so to speak. We kind of vet our teachers. We make sure they know their content and they know their Bible really, really well. But no, it's not accredited.
We did have a group of kids go through our God versus Science class, how science proves the existence of God, and we sent them certificates, so showing that they completed. So we can't right now. We don't have accreditation, which in a way is kind of nice because there's nobody dictating what we teach. So we want to be true to the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
But even for that class, Science versus God, basically we did so much, Deanne did so much research, plus that's her master's focus. And we went down to Texas to see an incredible...
the Discovery Institute.
Yeah, Discovery Institute put on a great symposium of some of the best professors around the world that came in and shared their views. Those are the professors that believe in God, which is sometimes hard to find in our highly secular higher ed today, which is completely becoming more and more toxic to Christianity. And so it was great to go find some of these world leaders on science talking about how God fits in and how science proves the existence of God instead of trying to deny that.
Yeah. So that was our first class that we created. And the goal of that, especially since we teach at the university level, we see so many kids go into college and they lose their faith. And one of the number one things they lose it over is I even say, doctrine of evolution. So we wanted the kids to know more than their professors, and we wanted them to be able to actually look deeply at these teachings and also know what the Bible teaches. So we kind of hit it from 2 different angles, from the true science perspective and also a biblical perspective. So by the time they finish, they will know more about evolution than their teachers. So
I think we got another question. We got another question on the board there, Jeff.
Okay, yeah. The question is, how reliable are AI search engines such as ChatGPT improving accurate and reliable biblical information?
Wow. So the AI engines on that is, well, I mean, you could go to Bard, right? Bard.google.com, because Bard has, it just uses book information, right? It's not using
Yeah.
any of the online stuff.
Yeah.
And 60 Minutes asked it to summarize the New Testament in 25 words or less. Did a pretty good job. A little 18-word snippet on basically Jesus Christ is the King.
Yeah.
But man, oh man, if you're gonna jump into ChatGPT, guys like Jordan Peterson do it all the time. They jump in, but they know that ChatGPT makes up stuff, right? So even Google, their AI, they didn't know why it was making up stuff, and they named it. What was it called? They have a name for it. Something like confident fake information, right? I mean, it's because 60 Minutes asked it to write a paper on what causes inflation, and a week later, boom, it came out. Bard shot that out really fast. And why they call it Bard? Because Bard was the old kind of singer that in Shakespearean times. Like he'll tell you a good story, mix in a little truth and a little bit of whatever he can think of. Well, same thing with this Bard AI engine, which is amazing what it can do. But then 60 Minutes came back. Scott Pelley said, "Hey, why all the references are fake?" Yeah, we don't know why he does that. So even Jordan Peterson, when he does a Bible study, prepares for Bible study with AI, will go back and he yells at his AI engine, says, "Hey, this one's fake," and says, "Oh, sorry, we'll come up with a better source for you." So maybe after you vet out all the fake news in there, it could be a source.
Yeah. Speaking of AI, there is a research project that I have called BibleStudyBuddy.online, which basically takes the doctrines of the Church of God International and filters them. So you're filtered through a Sabbath keeper's perspective and Church of God International's perspective to ask it Bible questions, and it's usually pretty good, but it will make up stuff sometimes. So it's not something I recommend for real study. It's more just of research to see what people will ask it and how it responds.
Yeah, one of the first classes we built was remember the Sabbath ... And actually, the Bible Sabbath Association, I was on their board for the last 12 of the last 16 years. So actually, Sunday was my last day on the board, right? So I'm working on some new projects right now, helping out Common Faith Academy, working on a happiness class to put on there at some point.
Okay.
But the first class we put on, one of the first classes was remember the Sabbath ... The ... is to keep it holy, and I went back and used some of the best articles from the Sabbath Sentinel, which are created by a number of different Sabbath keeping organizations, right? Church of God Seventh Day writes for that, SDAs write for that. So so I picked the best Sabbath articles from the last 20 years, and we picked 20 articles to put in there that I thought opened up the Sabbath in a new way. And so that's a really neat class. Put a lot of time into that.
Cool. Hey, can you guys show us what this looks like online, just on the website a little bit for folks out there who aren't familiar?
Yeah, this is a new website, and it's accessible right now. It's got just a little bit more tweaking to do, but it's fully functional right now. One of the things that sets our classes apart from other online classes is the interactivity. So our goal was to change the paradigm of learning from passive learning, just reading and watching videos, to active learning. So we tried to make the classes very engaging and interactive. So it actually challenges your understanding, your memory. Another thing too that's really nice is that we don't collect any of your data. It's completely stress-free. You do it on your own time. We're not collecting your scores. And you can retake the quizzes as many times as you want. But one of the goals of the quizzes is to help you better understand the scriptures and the material and the content. So it's available 24/7. We don't collect data. So I wanted to show you some of the interactive features. Dusty, if you go over up. Okay. I'm going to take you over to all our classes here. And
so is that commonfaithacademy.org?
Okay, do we got that website, Jeff, we could put up on the screen?
There we go.
There we go.
can you see it?
Have you been watching that?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So, so we've got many classes up already. There's two basic different types of classes. There's the instructor-led classes. We have one of them. I'm going to go to the home screen here. Put this up. You'll see is the Egyptian plagues class. This is taught by Tom. So
Kelly.
Yeah.
Tom Kelly from Australia.
Oh.
So he's got a little demo video right here that you can play. But this class is set to launch the week of February 11th. So we are just beginning, we're taking signups now. So if you're interested and want to sign up for the class, you can go and click on the sign up button and put your information in.
And the way that
is there a limit on how many people can sign up?
I think he was hoping for
maybe 30.
Maybe 30. He might actually have two classes going, one in England and one in the US, but you could jump into the English side if you wanted to get up really early in the morning. But that's for when he's live, right? So once a week he'll go live and do a live session. And if you can't make that, no problem. They videotape it just like what's happening here. And you can watch it later, but it's really neat to go through with a cohort of people that you get to see once a week. And then you got homework to do, kind of things to do during the week, some Bible studies that.
Yeah, it's all interactive. It's all on the website. So you can do it. So during the week, you can do the work on your own time and then meet for the live stream. And if you can't make it, he records it.
Yeah, it's kind of scheduled so that you get it done before the spring holy days. So it's kind of a neat way to jump, get ready for the spring holy days. So that's why we timed it for this time.
So
yeah, I noticed on there. I just saw there's a teaching from Ron Dart, who I guess he has passed away, but you still have a class. How do you have a class from Ron Dart? just for those curious.
That's a great question. So the way back when I was just finishing up my doctorates, Ambassador College almost pulled me in to put the Epistles of Paul class online because it was the most popular class. And whatever happened, it didn't work out. And years later, it's interesting that now we're getting to work on this class. So it's we've taken he was probably the most one of the best professors of this class that Ambassador College ever had, and it's the most popular class. So it's his 41 lessons have been recorded. So what we've done is taken it and added visuals to it. Deanne's added maps and found short videos. We've added little clips of quizzes and tests, things like that would make it fun, interactive on the way. So that's how we've got his stuff. We've only done 6 of them so far. If it's well received, and so far it's looking good, then we will probably keep continuing with that.
Yeah, we haven't advertised it yet. So I'm going to kind of give you an example here. So if you go to the website, go to all classes, and so far 3 of them, we've got 6 finished, 3 of them are up. So this one's Acts 2 through 4 through Ron Dart.
It's a second class in his Epistles of Paul class.
So you'll come to this, you just click on Start Course. So you'll see it's highly visual. And then it's see if this works. So it starts out.
We've now come to Acts 2 and verse 14. Peter is standing in the middle of a large crowd. The crowd is, for the most part, Jews, people who lived in Jerusalem, but also largely composed of people who had been born elsewhere. Although Jews, they were a part of the diaspora. They were scattered around the world, but they had now returned to Jerusalem and were living there. There were at this time in Jerusalem synagogues of people who were from different countries and consequently would speak the language with which these people were born and with which they were most comfortable. So there were synagogues of the Cretes, I'm sure, synagogues of the Libyans. As a result of this, it's rather an interesting sidelight of history. All these people now are gathered around Peter, and Peter begins with what has to be considered the first apostolic sermon, the first really preaching of the gospel by one of Jesus' own disciples after his departure.
So why don't you jump in there?
Peter, verse 14, standing up.
So you can kind of see, and then you can follow along too. We've got the
Wow, very cool, very cool.
Yeah.
I remember going through the cassette tapes from Ron Dart on all those epistles of Paul.
Yeah.
And were there some questions associated with that? Like, do you get to that at the end of the lesson, or how do you work that in?
All right. So, we do have questions. I'll kind of take you through a little bit.
So Deanna's sliding down on that page
Yeah.
below the YouTube video.
So
Okay.
what we also did is we've got these interactive maps so you can see the locations where the events in these verses take place, and you kind of get to know the area. And one of my objectives too was to show these maps in different views. So you can kind of see how the Dead Sea and the Red Sea and the Sea of Galilee is all aligned on the Great Rift Valley. And so you'll learn a little bit about the locations. Here's the main characters. So you can drag and drop these to see if you how well you are familiar with these characters.
Gotcha.
So
drop one. Just drop one.
Kind of like, I'm just gonna.
Have to put them together.
I'm not looking.
Mix them up. There you go.
And then you can hit submit and see. I got one right, Samuel. And then you can retake it again. So
Got it.
The idea is to learn, and then we have these different we've got a couple different timeline of events. So if you click on, you can kind of see what happened. And if you click on them again, they disappear. So here's the test yourself. So each one of these has 10 questions. And so what was Peter's expectations relative to the time of Christ's return? I'm just going to go ahead, click on one, hit submit, right? And then it gives you feedback why you're correct or incorrect.
Okay.
So there's different types of, there's multiple choice, there's matching, there's true and false, there's questions, fill in the blank, multiple answers. And then at the end of it, it gives you a score, and you can retake it as many times as you want. And the nice thing is nobody knows what your score is but you. So, and then we have a little call to action, something to take away, to do after doing this, to think about. And then, of course, congratulations, and a little bit about Ron Dart and CEM. So they are working with collaboration. They've given us the rights to use their materials, and so it's kind of a joint venture.
Very cool. Very cool. Hey, Dusty, do you know Dale DuPont?
Yeah.
Okay. He seems to have your sense of humor. I'm noticing his comments in the chat box. But hey, that's really cool because I hadn't looked at what you guys have been doing with the Ron Dart material. So I find that very interesting. Let me just ask you, since we do have some people with a lot of background knowledge on education, we hear within the church a lot about homeschooling. And, a lot of people in the church, I don't know the numbers, but I'm well aware of a number of people within the Church of God community that are homeschooling their children. What are your thoughts just on advantages to homeschooling? Do you think there are any disadvantages to homeschooling when we're talking about, K through 12 age range? What are your thoughts on that for some people out there who may be thinking about it?
Yeah, it's interesting that so having wore the traditional teacher hat for years and going through teachers' colleges and working there, I highly recommended homeschooling. It's just the schools are getting so toxic now, and you might have a great teacher, but it's the kids that are around sometimes that are as toxic. And sometimes the teachers don't even know that they're being a little bit toxic with their ideology. The deal is, we going through the educational system. Maria Straight with PragerU is the CEO of PragerU. Just interviewed a guy who left Portland State University because it was so toxic. And he says the only thing you can do with higher ed is burn it to the ground. And the problem with the higher ed situation is it all started in the teachers' colleges, and the teachers' colleges started off with this postmodern ideology that pushes that there are no moral absolutes, and that you have your truth, I have my truth. And when I was going through that program, I said, this is terrible if this gets out there. Well, it did. It's out everywhere. And a lot of these K-12 teachers have been indoctrinated in it themselves, because that's where it started. So it's not just higher ed, it's moved out to schools. So if you can go to homeschool where a kid can get done what he's going to do in school in half the time, generally at home, if you've got a good curriculum and if you've got some good resources, and there are so many of those springing up all over the place, that if we go back and do it, we would have homeschooled our kids all the way.
So let me ask you, you said something there about this postmodernism idea infiltrating the teaching profession. How did that happen again? And why, if you're pushing postmodernism, why couldn't there be other views also discussed along with it, rather than focusing on that? How did that all transpire? If we look at, higher ed and we talk about these liberal college campuses for the most part, that seems to be the case. I mean, even when I was back in college, it seemed like more of the professors had a liberal leaning to them. Not all of them, but I'm going back many years now. I understand it's even worse today. How did that happen over time? You guys got any ideas?
Yeah, so I remember about 15 years ago, I bumped into another professor who was a Christian at the university, and I asked him if Romans 1 was happening on our campus. He looks around and says, "Wow, are you kidding me? I told my wife last night, Romans 1 is happening on our campus." And that means they worship the creature, which is evolution, not the creator. And God gave them over to a reprobate mind, and their wise became as fools. We saw such foolish decisions being made all over the place that we said there has to be something going on here. But it hasn't. I mean, we could say it was 1962, back when the Bible got kicked out of schools and you couldn't pray and couldn't use the Bible. 62 and 63 Supreme Court decisions. But really, there's a neat paper out there that was written by a guy who said, how college stole my religion. And he was lamenting about the fact that he had a great religion. He grew up in a great home. And then when he went off to college, he found out that, oh, these were just fables. The Bible's a book of myths. And he went on and on. And when was that written? That was written in 1924 when Harvard stole his religion.
Wow.
He didn't have, so this has been going on for a long, long time. Evolution's been pushed a long time. And that's the seeds of it right there.
I think that's true. However, what we're seeing right now is a downright assault on Christianity and God. Before it was keeping God out, but now it's very anti-Christian, and it's amazing. I don't think that parents are really aware of what is being taught to their kids. Because I mean, now it's so in your face. You've got schools putting pornography and teaching pornography to the kids. And I don't really believe there's a very concerted effort to keep that knowledge away from the parents. So,
yeah, we were both pushed out of higher ed basically because of our Christian beliefs, and so were our kids. So I see some comments asking, well, how can I get my kid to go to higher ed? If you're going to go to higher ed, I highly recommend going into the math sciences, perhaps mathematical engineering, those types of things that are not as, I guess, corrupted. Actually, the science and biology, yikes, that's fully evolutionary Darwinism. But going into, we're trying to push our kids to go into VOTAC or programming, something that's not as, I'll just say toxic. I keep using the word toxic. We've got a bad taste in our mouth with being in higher ed and education for over 30 years now.
I think, yeah. And I think one of the things that they're really, the public schools are really trying to keep from parents is their assessment scores. For example, right now, for our local school district here in Emporia, you have to go 5 levels deep. I mean, the state assessment results used to be published on the front page or maybe the second page of their websites. Now you have to go 5 levels deep, and you have to know. Even the State Department, the Kansas State Department, even hides it from the parents. So right now, if you look at, math assessment for grade 11, these are basically kids that are graduating. 50% of them are in the very lowest quadrant, the lowest level. They don't know basic math is what it says. So if I was, let's say, going to sit in and take that test and I just filled in B's, you have 4 possibilities, right? Multiple choice. If I just randomly just put B's for all my answers, I would score as high as 50% of the kids graduating from our high school. So I think that's what parents need to know, is that the standard now is so low.
But lucky the Kansas Board of Regents said the standard is so low that maybe we should just kick math out of the curriculum. Like, don't require algebra anymore because it's just too tough for these kids today.
Yeah, they actually did. They were looking at taking college algebra out of a requirement because so many of the kids were not passing. So I think for parents that are hesitant about it, when you realize the education that your kids are getting in the public schools, it's the bar is so low that
we're going to get a little more into the homeschool movement, I guess, a little bit. We're going to go to Shepherd of the Ozarks in April to kind of be there, put on the hat as camp minister down there. And a lot of homeschool kids are coming in there during the eclipse in April. And we're going to have an event down there. So that's, we're going to hopefully get more into that movement, because I applaud parents that figure out a way to do it, because schools are getting tougher. Now, if you get a great teacher, that's great. I mean, they find a great teacher in a bad school is better than most teachers in regular schools. So if you get a good teacher, just pray for that. If your kids got to go to the school system, then you pray for a great teacher.
Yeah. Are there any like Christian universities that are out there that could be an alternative for
There are.
Christians?
There are, but you really have to vet them,
Mhm.
because just because something's a Christian university does not mean that they uphold biblical values.
Like TCU or something, which they have the name Christian in there, but
Yeah, I mean, even Baylor, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I graduated with, or the first person I worked with graduated from Baylor, and she said, yeah, half of the 40,000 students at Baylor were Baptist, and what were they doing? They were trying to convert the other half.
Mhm.
Okay.
So it depends on your school, really. Yeah, because some of the Christian schools, Kelly McDonald was sharing that that I think he went to Lambert, which was a Christian school, and he thought it was even worse than a regular school, because day one the professor's throwing a Bible saying this is just a book of myths, but I'm going to teach you the real way. And so when you get into a school like that, you think it's Christian. You just have to make sure you're vetting. Again, it gets down to the teachers, and some of these teachers come in with really good programs and projects, and you're going to grow a lot, but you just have to be careful.
Yeah, I read
So I'm sorry, Dan, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I read a statistic about the proportion of faculty members, university faculty members, that were atheists. And ironically, the highest, I think it was one of the highest levels of atheists were teaching the religion classes at the university. So you have to be extremely careful. There are universities out there, maybe Hillsdale.
There are Midwest Nazarene has a neat school in our area, and there's one, John Brown University, over on the edge of Arkansas. There are some schools that seem to take good care of their students. So there are some.
Yeah, I guess what we're missing in the Church of God is like what we had when we had Ambassador College, right? We're missing that higher level education for people in the Church of God. Do you think that maybe what you're doing could eventually turn into something like that, or is that like a lot of like asking too much of you?
Well, I mean, we kind of get up every day and say, all right, God, what do you want us to do today? Because this could evolve into something like that. Can I use the word evolve? Anyway, God could guide us into that path, certainly. So even going down to Shepherd of the Ozarks, we're going to work on a discipleship training program, and we're going to tap into resources probably that CGI has. We're going to tap into some resources that we have online with Common Faith Academy, and maybe look and see what's out there, because we don't want to invent the wheel, but we want to try to get some of that stuff online so that maybe we can have some sort of an online certification program at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, we hope.
Gotcha. Now, what I wanted to ask you both is, you were in higher education for a long period of time, and I know you were a little bit soured on it more recently. During that time, when you go back to when you first got into it to now, what are some of the changes you both saw that kind of soured you, besides what you've already expressed?
Well, I guess I was pretty naive in a lot of ways, because I lived in my own little silo. So in my program, in my school, we were doing okay. But then we started seeing people get pushed out, and thought, wow, that's, and then we saw our own kids kind of, one of our kids came home after being at our school, which I think is in the middle of nowhere in Kansas, right? I mean, how bad can it be?
What was the name of the school, if you don't mind?
Emporia State University. And I love Emporia State. I do. I just don't like what they're turning into. Anyway, so our kid comes home within a month and says, hey, he takes his aluminum can, throws it in the garbage can, and asks us why we're not doing more about climate change. And we said, well, go ahead and take the aluminum can and move it over to the recycles over here, which you've done for the last 20 years growing up in this house. And no, it's not my issue. It's the big corporations. There's nothing. I said, go ahead and lower your own little carbon footprint, son. While you're anyway. So that I couldn't believe within a month already that we got some of that kind of pushback. And I thought, wow, there's no way you could have bet me any. I would have taken $1 million bet on that. Now that wouldn't happen at my school. Mm-hmm. So behind the scenes, this stuff has been growing for a long time.
Yeah.
And I actually went to another professor and said, hey, your dad was a Christian professor here and you're a Christian professor here. For the last 50 years, has this always been a rough area for Christians? He says, no, they used to have a chapel on campus and it used to be great. But it's been slowly pushed across the street and then just kind of slowly. I guess it's the old frog in the hot water thing, right? Where it happens slowly.
Well, I kind of disagree with that because we've seen a big acceleration of these anti-Christian beliefs. And I would say it's just downright indoctrination. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I've talked to the head of HR at the university who told me that their whole goal was to be the progressive, really meaning regressive. They want to be the progressive leaders to bring on these anti-religious ideas. Of course, he won't say anti-religious, but these indoctrinating ideas to our entire state. So there's been a big push. I would say that when we started at the university, it was completely different than it is now. It's just a whole different. The climate is completely different. Extremely toxic. I wouldn't have called it toxic before.
No, even 5 years ago, probably would have said, no, it's not toxic yet. And I mean, it was. We just didn't see it. So when we kind of got pushed out, and yikes. So there's a lawsuit going on with that. Alliance Defending Freedom is defending us, and we'll see what happens for that. But that was for going to the Feast of Tabernacles. I got pushed out basically. Mm-hmm. And I was told I had to notify HR 8 weeks in advance before I ever left for a church holy day. 8 weeks with a approved curriculum plan that wouldn't ruin and hurt my students, which I was doing by going to these holy days. Mm. So,
although you could go to a conference.
Yeah. Oh, you don't need to tell us you're going to a regular conference.
Conference. If you're going for a conference, it's not. That's
wow. That sounds like some hypocrisy there. If you can go for this thing, but you can't go for something that's that important to you. I mean, don't they? How do they respond when you say, hey, what about so-and-so going to this conference for a week? How's that different from me doing this?
Yeah, basically that's the whole reason we've got this lawsuit, because their answers were just undecipherable. I mean,
Gotcha. So you think it's the bigwigs, the administrators have kind of pushed this all down, and are they hiring professors and teachers who have that mindset also, do you think?
I was at a Christian Bible study recently, and somebody said, wait, this lady at our church, she's Christian. How did she get into the university? And I said, oh, out of the 300 professors up there, how did she get in? Because that was the last thing I did before I left the university. I hired her. Yeah, I said it's hard to get through, and the deal is she did not have anything about Christianity on the first page of her 20-page resume, but page 2 on, it was all there. So you have to dig a little deeper. And higher eds, the muckety mucks weren't looking at page 2. Page 1 was fine. Move on. So yeah, it's turning on us today. I think the whole world seems to be turning in crazy ways now. They're getting bolder. The anti-Christians are getting bolder than ever before. So
And it's one of the reasons why we launched Common Faith Academy, because we wanted to equip people with more biblical knowledge and with the ability and strength to defend their faith.
If anybody's interested out there and who hears this in the future in teaching something, someone who's got some background knowledge in different subjects that pertain to what you guys are putting out, they just need to send you an email, or how would they do that?
Yeah, we are mostly, this project's mostly basically, what would you call it? Mostly volunteer. Most of our time is, so.
Yeah.
And so it's a labor of love is what so we are always looking for people that want to help out in some way. Maybe if you're a good writer, editor, there's a lot that goes into the classes. So creating content, researching, finding videos, and we try to find the best videos out there that we can. And also people that can proofread, even test out the classes that we create, because sometimes the default answers are, we might not, we need to fix some answers, or maybe, what else?
Yeah, well, anyway, you can, Deanne's email is on there, deanne.howell@commonfaithacademy.org, and she'll help you get signed up for that 7-week Egyptian plagues class if you want to do that, starting February 11th with Tom Cayley in Australia.
Yeah.
Really neat guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and if you want any of the other classes, you can click on there. And if you go in, do we have to mention something about logging in or not logging in? Is that
well, there's 2 different ways to access the classes. So some of them reside right on, give you instant access on the website. So you click on it, it opens it directly.
Like the Ron Dart class, I guess, because you just were just clicking on it directly, right?
Yeah. Right. Okay. Exactly. And those are usually the smaller classes. And for example, Mike's class, which is an instructor-led class, some of them are like, the instructor-led classes are generally 7 weeks long. And so you enter those through what's called the Moodle portal. You'll see at the very top, it'll say of the tabs, it'll say Moodle. And so for those classes, you need to register form. So enter an email and password. That way it keeps track of your progress. So when you exit out, go back in, it'll start you up where you left off. So those are usually the longer classes. The smaller chunked classes we have on the websites. So
okay, we got a question, Jeff. You got that last question for them?
It says, do you provide a newsletter or catalog?
No, we don't have a newsletter. We do advertise them with Common Faith Network, CGI, and some of the other organizations when we have a class that's coming out. You can access the classes by going to the website. There are a few that are not posted up there yet, which we're working on. So some of the classes we talked about God versus science. We have a class about the biblical and scientific information perspective about abortion, trying to make abortion unthinkable in our church. We have the 10 Commandments and working with Robert on that.
Robert Ansando, I saw him in the feed there. So hello, Robert.
And we actually have a Swahili version of that class, which we need input from Robert on. So we have 10 Commandments also. We talked about Egyptian plagues, comparative religion, why evil, pain, suffering. And we have another class. This one's not up. You have to go through the Moodle portal to access it right now at the moment, but I want to make it available on the website. Is the Bible reliable? So it's the extra biblical evidence for the validity of the Bible and the scriptures. So it's really, most people say, well, I already know the Bible. This is really a fascinating class, and everybody will come out, what do I say? You'll glean something from it. It's really interesting and engaging, and will make the Bible come more alive.
And take it with somebody else. So go on and find somebody else, take it with somebody else. And that's a great way to compare notes and go in for half an hour and then talk to somebody and say, hey, what'd you glean out of this? So
it could be used in Bible studies. We had one friend use it in his sermon. So people are welcome to, you don't have to take all 7 weeks of a class normally, except for the instructor, unless they're being instructor led. But we have ones that you can go in and you're interested in this piece of this segment of the class, and you can access it. It's pretty neat. So
yeah, there's a lot of flexibility even with the instructor led classes. I tell the folks that are asking about the class, hey, I can't. They tell me I can't be there at the meeting once a week for 7 or 8 weeks at night. I tell them, hey, I record those meetings. I send that to anybody who doesn't attend, and you're going to get all of it because the rest of it is all online. My classes also, I have them read a book. So again, there might be a minimal cost, the price of a used book, $10, $15 maybe with a couple of my classes, but you can't beat this for economic reasons, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then one of the neat things, Mike, is that you probably had students from all across the United States.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that was really cool too, that people get to meet other people from different church groups, different organizations, independent church groups, and sometimes they become friends through that, and we're doing that networking, trying to bring the church back to unity rather than all the issues we've had with unity over the years. You know?
Not just that, we had some from Canada, Australia. I'm just trying to think of all the different places we had.
Jamaica, yeah.
Yeah.
So we got a couple minutes left. Anything you guys want to say in our remaining moments here?
Yeah, we try to stay positive. So those that have kids in schools, definitely pray a little more than you're used to praying.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, when I wear my college T-shirt around town here or sweatshirt, people say, "Why are you still wearing that shirt? I thought you have a lawsuit." Yeah, well, I had 20 pretty good years up there. I'm not going to be defined by my last 2 years, but I am trying to set out the word, though, that what happened to us is all over the place. This is not just a small town in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, but this is spread everywhere, and we're talking to professors all over the world, and they are seeing the same thing happen. So mostly in the U.S., the U.S. seems to be the pillar of this, and it's kind of sad. So definitely look for those better opportunities. Hopefully Common Faith Academy can help bail you out when you need your kids to learn something spiritual and can ramp up the Bible in your home.
And the classes are fun.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it does sound like I guess advice for people who have high school children to maybe if they're going to college, take some of your classes, take some of these things. That way they'll be able to, even when the professors will teach evolution or teach postmodernism, they'll understand what the truth is, hopefully get more grounded in truth, and maybe even take it as a family. Could you take it as a family, like a family study?
We've had a homeschool group do that up in Michigan. They took it as a family, the God versus Science. So yeah, that's a good idea. Yep.
Yeah, I think this is a great resource. I had a guy over the last year, he's been calling me from Texas, telling me about some young people he knows, his daughter and her friends who've just gone to college over the last few years. And many of them were impacted by what the psychology teacher was teaching or the science teacher was teaching, humanistic ideas going against the idea that there's something in us that is bigger than us, the mind, the consciousness. Again, these explanations that psychology is pushing on consciousness to make it just a biological thing, rather than this other component that we would call the spirit in man. And some of these kids were really hurt by it. One fella committed suicide. I don't know if that was the only reason that he did it, but he was really impacted by what he was learning in college that he wasn't prepared for in his church upbringing. So to the parents out there, we need to ground our children in what they're going to experience when they get to college. I remember when I went to college, I had an anthropology teacher, I had a religion teacher who were throwing things at me that I had to work through, but I did because there is that other information out there that you can answer those questions that the college professor is throwing. And Deanne and Dusty are working on classes that can equip your children when they do get faced with those types of things in college. There are answers, and we want to prepare our young people for what they're going to experience when they get to college, if that's the route they're going.
Yeah.
That's
Thank you
right.
very much.
That's right. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, thank you for joining us today, and hopefully there'll be somebody out there who's watching. We'll find this a great resource, great for their children, great for themselves. So we thank you again for joining us this week.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and we'll say
Appreciate it,
goodbye to
folks.
everybody who's watching, and we'll see everybody next week on Prove All Things.